Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Music Marketing TV. I'm Dan D, and thanks for tuning in to Making Beats. Showing you guys a little song I made called Sing a Little Prayer. Vocals done by Keisha Angeline and myself. And in this video, I'm showing you guys mixing. I'm going to be showing you guys a whole bunch of tips and tricks and some chain effects, alright? Now I can't show you guys everything because it would take you an hour. Because like, really, look how big this track is. And I'm going to break this down a little bit, alright? I'm going to show you guys, for this first part video, how to mix synths. Because, you know, it's really typical, you know, for drums, for vocals, but, you know, I haven't seen many tips and tricks on mixing synths with the project. So I'll take you down to the first verse. Hey, he's beautiful. Zoom in. Y'all, here's the mix. Alright, so synth we're using is Lush 101, and as you can see, it's being fed into another channel where it's being sidechained. Well, at least it's mimicking sidechain. All it is the fader is pretty much connected to a controller that's moving it up and down, and the controller has an LFO, so it's going up and down pretty much just like so. And on the actual channel we have a parametric EQ. Take a listen to our synth, and I'm actually gonna move forward in time so we can hear it from over here, from this perspective. Cool. I'll zoom in. Alright. So parametric EQ, we have this weird thing going on. A little bit of mountain, little valley here, and little landscape there. And you can see there's not much really going on at this point, but there are reasons for these little dips and stuff like that. Alright, I didn't want to make it interfere with the kick drum. I didn't want to make it interfere with the snare, and as well as the vocals. Vocals are important, right? The vocals must stand out. So in order to pretty much mix a synth, we have to think about pocketing with other instruments. If you're not familiar with pocketing, check out some of my other videos. But essentially, whatever you do to one thing, you do the opposite to the other. Alright, so that's pocketing. So let's take a look at our snare first of all. Snare right here, parametric EQ. I'm going to stack it on top so y'all can see. And you can pretty much see that there is a little bit of opposition going on, and some of the same stuff going on at the same time. But we're cutting off the low end for both. This is the snare above, and the vocals here, the synth is being cut off as well. But there is some low end quality that we want to keep in, so you can see it's a little steep here, and by doing so there is no interference with the kick, so that's good. Then kind of like this tone right here. I'm just going to lift number 2 up. I'm going to copy the value so I remember what this goes to. Now to hear that, has a lot of the meat and potatoes in there in this little particular frequency, so that's why it is up a little bit. Alright, and then we put it down a little bit on the snare. Alright, you can see most of the stuff that's happening in the snare is right there. But as we proceed in the song, you'll notice that the frequencies start to expand. See that? And in order for the synth to not interfere with the snare or the clap or whatever that is, we need to make sure it's ducked down. And we don't want to duck it down too much because the snare only comes in every 2 and 4, right? So we don't want to do something crazy, as an example, like that. Like that's retarded. We don't want to do that. So let's put it back there. We want to do some slight small changes, all right? And then we do the opposite change to the snare, so we can bring it out. When the snare hits, you can really hear that snare. All right, it's very clear. Now I'm gonna move over in time to pretty much the end of the chorus, so we can see what's going on. See a lot of things happening with the VST now, with Lush 101, and that's the reason why we don't really cut it off like that. Right? We want to be able to hear the clarity in the synth now as it's, you know, traveling through time. Right? So what I'm really trying to say is you don't want to do too much to your main synth. Your main synth is, I don't know, really it's the meat of your meal, and you want to do slight changes to it. Alright? You want to just do subtraction and just slight additions, slight cuts, and then slight raising. Alright? When it comes to EQing synths, I usually like to subtract everything you don't need. But because this can get a little crowded in this track, I kind of wanted to bring it up a bit and make things simpler that way, make things clearer that way, right? So subtract everything you don't need. That's the first thing I do. So subtract the lows, subtract the snare section, subtract a little bit of the highs, because you're gonna need that for the vocal clarity. And if the synth is more clear than the vocal, it's just gonna sound really, it's gonna hurt your ears, right? So just bring it down a little bit, and in mastering you can bring it back up. You can level everything out a little better. Alright? So again, the theory with EQing synths is to subtract the things you don't need instead of raising the things that you need. Alright? This kind of world of EQing will make it a lot better for you when it comes to mixing at the end or mastering at the end. Alright? So that's pretty much it for that. I do have some other things on here like Sound Goodizer, just to level things out. Like picture the EQ as your first spread of butter on bread, and then the Sound Goodizer or limiter or compressor as that second swipe on that bread to level all the butter, whatever. Alright? So we have a little bit of Sound Goodizer on here, and not too much. Default brings you up to here. Right? So I'm gonna it's pretty much at 9 o'clock, right? So check out what we have. You can really hear the compression, and like if there's nothing on there, you can hear it sounds a little muffled. Bring it back just a little bit, and it levels everything out, right? So that's one thing to have on there. A compressor will do, a limiter will do, and I actually have a limiter right here. And all my limiter is doing right now is I'm bringing all the lows up, and I'm bringing all the highs down a little bit. Not too much. Maybe it looks like, yep, 4 decibels, and I'm going up around 7. You can see what it's doing here. The reason why I do this is because the lows in the song, like if you go back to verse 1, those lows are actually really low. Alright? They're very low. And then when it gets further in the song, as the frequencies come out more, it just sounds like it's getting louder. So I kind of want to use the ceiling to bring it back down. Alright, so bring up the lows with the gain, bring down the ceiling. So then when you actually play it through the song, it kind of sounds normal. It sounds level. Right? Think of a limiter or compressor as an automatic fader. Really, someone just controlling the fader on the fly, every little tiny movement. So make sure you have a limiter on there if you have a dynamic synth going on. Alright, like you don't have to use it. But if you have a dynamic synth going from very low to very high or very punchy, you know, you definitely want to have a limiter in there to make it an illusion that it's getting louder and not actually getting louder. Alright? Got some reverb on here just to add some icing on a cake, but typically I would like to route that reverb to a send that controls my global reverb, so everything in the track has the same reverb. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. This is the first part of mixing, teaching you guys how to mix synths in the song, and also don't use that as the Bible. All right, make sure that you watch other tutorials on mixing synths. This is just one way to do it. There's so many ways to mix, and it's always going to change because there's so many different kinds of songs out there. Anyways, I'm Dan D from Music Marketing TV. Catch you guys in the next episode. Peace.